The Convocation lecture of Crescent University has always been described to be profound as it prepares the students for the post-graduation period. That of the 16th edition was more apt as it took the interest of all at heart, with the lecturer lending a voice to contemporary and economic issues as it concerns law practice. With the heredity of the lecturer, Professor Abiola Sani, Dean, Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, his delivery held all spellbound with lots of takeaways.
My takeaway from this beautiful lecture is that we have been encouraged that to have a formidable society, we must all do the right things at the right time.
With the Bola Ajibola College of Law auditorium filled to capacity, the ceremony started with the rendition of both the national and university anthem, followed with prayers and Quran recitation by Shafiu Abdurrahman. The Hafiz recitation of Suratul Kaf reminded the congregation of the obligation of such recitation on Friday when the lecture held.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين.
After a few recognitions by the MCs and entry of academic procession, the presentation started after a brief citation of the guest lecturer. This was preceded with brief remarks by the proprietor and vice-chancellor of the university. The lecture hinged on pertinent national issues like carry the downtrodden along in reforms, sustainable local government reform, various ways of poverty alleviation, effectiveness of the taxpayers' money. The lecture in itself can qualify for an inaugural lecture.
I just want us to take this opportunity to recognize and remember the dearly departed. We recognize the departure of His Excellency Prince Bola Ajibola. Without whose efforts, we would not be here. We recognize the departure of Osa Alhaji Bankole. We also recognize the departure of some of the citizens in Jigawa State. The Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor of this university, the Emir of Kazori. Kazori is in Jigawa State, and you will have heard about the petrol tanker explosion with over 200 kills.
I remember that I came across a very lucid and beautiful report that he made. I came across it on the social media sometimes early this year or late last year. And I quickly called the attention of our amiable dean here, Professor Momodu, if you can remember, and I drew his attention to that article. And I said, this is the kind of person that we should be looking for. And this is the kind of person that should come to speak to us at our convocation lecture, at our pre-convocation lecture in this university. He agreed in no time, and within a week of my discussion with Professor Momodu, he reported back to me that Professor Abela had agreed to grace this occasion, and I thank God for it. Thank you very much for doing this.
Convocation lecturer of today, Professor Abiola Sani, is a senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN. In the legal profession, is referred to as a learned Sikh and a member of the inner bar. Professor Abiola Sani is also the current dean Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, Akoka.
What has changed? And the answer is the policy and the law changed. Without the law, you cannot have private university. So law is the foundation of development. Without law, we will not have MTN, we will not have the telcos who have revolutionized the telecom sector. That is why we lawyers pride ourselves as social engineers. We don't need to dirty our hands in building and constructing new society the way engineers do. We may not construct bridges, but with true concepts and true doctrines, we are able to re-engineer the society and bring it on a path of development. If we are able to re-engineer the foundation of Nigeria, which is the Constitution, Nigeria will be set on the path of irreversible progress. So, what is law? I'm not going to waste time so much on that. I've defined that in my book on legal method. It's a rule or body of rules made by institutions, bodies, and persons vested with power to make such rules which are binding and enforced among the members of the society. So the functions of law, which is often ignored, is the capacity to act as instrument of social change. When we were in school as young boys and young girls learning the law, some of the pronouncement or statement or dictum that usually fire our imagination was that of Roscoe Pound, that law is an instrument of social engineering. So what do we mean by economic development? For our purpose, economic development describes the process of improving the well-being of the people in a specific area. In addition to qualitative and quantitative growth, it includes social and environmental aspects. And there is a quotation here that you find very useful. If you look at the anthem of Nigeria, whether the old or the new, it paints the picture of where we should be after 64 years. But is that where we are? No. So there are indices for measuring whether a country is going or receding. So the global multidimensional poverty index of 2022 is not looking good for Nigeria. So if you look at Nigeria, Nigeria has multidimensional poverty index value of 0.2257, with the percentage of the population in multidimensional poverty being 63%. This is totally unacceptable. In a country where we are so blessed, then many people still go to bed hungry, not sure where the next meal will come. I believe this will fire the imagination of some of the young ones and say, this will not be the reality in my own generation. So other indices of development include gender inequality, human development index, and social progress index, among others. And here, Nigeria is in bad company consistently. Then what is the value of our education? We need to do something about it. So law and development. Law and development is a field of study that encompasses an array of topics, subjects, themes, sub-themes, approaches, and analysis that still remain considerably ambiguous, because the precise boundary of the field is difficult to delineate. So some scholars focus on relationship between law and economic development, which they generally seem to equate with economic growth. But it is much more. Some are interested in the implication of legal reform for a broader range of social outcomes, including respect for human rights, gender equality, the environment, and then the distributive justice. When you look at this, you see that the scope of law and development is so broad and very difficult to delineate. So there are different schools in this area. But let me go to my own idea and the simple approach to this. Why scholars are struggling with meaning and scope of development, Nigerians, especially those who are at the receiving end of the biting economic conditions, know the indices of underdevelopment when they see and experience them. As the saying goes, one who wears a shoe knows where it pinches. So the simple definition of development in the context of this discourse connotes facts and circumstances that have held Nigeria as a country, including its people, down from realizing its potential of becoming a great nation. Indeed, the giant of Africa, which it was rightly positioned to occupy at the outset. The factors that dimmed the shining light of Nigeria and turned it into an almost big-for-nothing nation, where its citizens, especially the multi-talented youth and the middle-aged, are leaving the shores of Nigerians in droves to another country in a manner that is symptomatic of the second slavery. So a country is underdeveloped when you see people who want to japa at all costs. If you look at most of the people that are here, including myself, our children are certainly not here because they cannot see any future. So we have to address that malaise. This brings me to the Constitution as an instrument of economic development. If you look at our Constitution, especially Chapter 2, beginning with Section 16.2, it provides that the state shall direct its policy towards ensuring A, the promotion of a planned and enhanced economic development. And there are so many other provisions in that Chapter 2. So it must, however, be pointed out that a constitution, no matter how beautifully crafted, it is only an effective as the people operating it. So this is a point that General Olusegun Obasanjo had echoed as far back 1977 in his speech at a convocation lecture like this in Ahmadu Bello Zaria, when he said, I wish to touch briefly on one crucial subject, and that is the question of leadership. I do this because of my firm conviction that no matter what constitution this country adopts in the next civilian administration, the people who operate that constitution and who run the affairs of the country, that is, the leadership that will emerge, will be a more important factor to reckon with. The leadership that will take over from the military will undoubtedly be one of the major pillars for our continued unity, stability, and progress. So it will be recalled that by the Independence Constitution of 1960, Nigeria operated on a 3-region level. However, this tripartite model of governance structure has continued to evolve over the years to the present 36 states. So we have grown bigger in terms of layers of government, but have we actually developed or created pockets of leakages and then frittering the fortunes of the country on maintenance of bogus and then bogus bureaucracy that are not delivering on their mandate. So the point was aptly captured in the report of the State Creation, Local Government and Boundary Adjustment Committee when it observed that for as long as state boundaries can be altered at will to create other states, for so long will it be impossible to determine the number of states Nigeria as a nation state will need for its stability. Do we really need this bogus system that is underperforming and under-delivering? There is no economic theory that can justify large bureaucracy that is under-delivering. So we need to do something about it. And this informed my recommendation. Let me jump into it now. Even when it is difficult to reform Nigeria, we can gradually reform Nigeria by strengthening the government that is closest to the people. There is a decision of the Supreme Court, a policy decision, to liberate the local government. Even when it's a policy decision, if the politicians will allow it to work, which I doubt, unless there is an engagement of the people, many nooks and crannies of Nigeria will never see development. But God forbid. We need to stand firm and make sure that we articulate the right policy that will engender sustainable development across the country. Let me quickly jump to constitutional amendments and economic development. The Constitution as the primary law of the state is an effective tool in institutionalizing economic development. However, for the Constitution to perform this role, it must reflect the contemporary yearnings of the people. A fundamental feature of the Constitution as the foremost law is that it is not static. Just as the relationship between people or between people and the government are not fixed, so the Constitution must change by responding to the current social and political dynamics and culture of the people.
The vote of thanks was offered by the registrar, Mr. Zakaria Ademola Ajibola. The media team thereafter sought the opinions of students and guests.
We are particularly grateful to our guest lecturer, who, as you have heard, on getting the message that the university would be most grateful if he could grace this occasion with his presence, very quickly accepted. And who can doubt why we made the choice of his lecture, having listened to all that he has said. Indeed, many thousands of people, students and professionals, pay a lot of money to receive the lecture we have received this afternoon, and here we are delivering it to all of you here for free.
The country must take its local government as priority and give it a proper structure that will help the people in the grassroots. Besides that our law should be precise and concise so that it will be useful for the whole nation.
Crescent University was very big on morality, so I'm going to take away that while moving on to life. And something else I also learned is about brilliance. There are a lot of brilliant students in Crescent University, and I think that helped with the competitive nature around me, and it pushes me. So I hope to take that with me as well.
A good lecture, it's a lesson to us. We need to copy them if we want to become something. You can see some professors on the seat. We have to follow them and listen to them so that we can become professors in the future.